Good. Well, welcome. I'm Matt Sharp, Executive Director. We're doing things a little bit different today. Normally, Bob Burnett is the host of these meetings. Bob's not able to be here today, so I'm going to host this one. Going forward, Bob will still be involved in these meetings. I'll be having more interaction with him, but Bob will still be involved. The main topic of our meeting today will be to discuss a new campus-wide Wi-Fi network that we're proposing. Before we get into that subject, I've got a couple other things I want to talk about. The first of which would be an update from the Employee Appreciation Committee. So I'd like to welcome Lady Newton.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning. I hope you noticed as you came into the room the trees on the doors. And that is to remind you that it is time for us to celebrate the Deerfield family. The family here of residents, employees, board, and even contractors. We do feel strongly about this community and cooperate to make it a very special place to live. As chair of the Employee Appreciation Committee, my first public duty is to introduce someone to you. Many of you may know this person. And this is the beginning of the 2018 Employee Gift Campaign. You will, this afternoon, receive a letter from me explaining more about the campaign. It will have an envelope attached for your convenience. Today, I'm introducing a nurse, a resident representative, a future resident. I think she's also a fitness expert, and the chair of the board, Deerfield Board of Directors, and most importantly, a dear friend of Deerfield, Chris Dismukes. Please help me welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, that made my day. I'm a very past nurse. I haven't actually been clinically active for about 20 years, but it's amazing for those of you who are in healthcare, especially nurses out there. You carry this with you the rest of your life. Once you're a nurse, you're always a nurse. You just have that need to be a part of that. But I wanted to speak to you today. First of all, how exciting to see so many of you in this room. I am so thrilled to see all of you. Many of I've met. Some of you are new residents, which I haven't had the opportunity to meet, but I look forward to that. Today I'm actually here not as a board member, so I'm taking off that board hat. And I'm here as a family member who has had the grateful opportunity to have had 3 family members here at Deerfield for the past 14 years. In 2004, I had the opportunity to move my mom and dad into St. Giles. They were in one of the very first cottages, which they absolutely loved. I loved it because I lived pretty close by, and I would run over here about 4 or 5 in the afternoon and shut the door and go, I'm hiding from the world, and I would come and enjoy my time with my parents, and it was just such a gift to me. A few years later, my dad passed away, but he really wanted to be in his cottage, and that is what he got. So it was really great. My mother then continued to live in the cottage for 5 years, decided then at that point that it was too hard to get to meals at her age, so she ended up moving to Henry, which became another 7 years of bliss for my mother. She absolutely loved living in Henry. Met so many new friends, as many of you participated in so many wonderful activities. That's so stimulating. Once she got to the point where it was a little bit hard to take her own medications and tired of doing the meals, she moved to the next best secret, and that was assisted living. She absolutely loved her time there. She was in assisted living almost 3 years. And the thing that I saw about Deerfield along the way that I look forward to is that as my mother went into her 90s, that chapter of her life, she lost many of her very close friends, yet she was constantly making new best friends. It was so beautiful to see, and had so many people that she cared about and that cared about her. I think it was July, She ended up in skilled care after breaking a wrist, and unfortunately, her health deteriorated, and she passed away in August at age 96. So we can be very grateful for all that she had and the kind of life she had. But I'm here today to tell you that part of that, a big part of that, is the resident population and what you all bring to this community, coupled with the staff that we are fortunate to have here at Deerfield. And I know most of you are going to agree with me, if not 100%, that we have a culture here that is hard to find in many other organizations, and we call it the Deerfield culture. I've been fortunate to be on the board 10 years. I can't believe it's almost over. It's just been a joy and a delight for me. But during that time, I've really gotten to know many of the staff, and seeing this culture and how it continues to grow, the support that the staff not only provides to the residents, but to one another. It's a beautiful thing to see. That brings us to today, and Ladine's chair responsibilities for this, basically, here's the envelope, the Appreciation Fund, Employee Appreciation Fund, and I love the concept of the family tree, because we at Deerfield really do feel like family, and I feel like you probably have developed relationships with staff who feel that way with you too. It is really important for our staff to be remembered. Obviously, one of the wonderful things about living here is you don't tip. You know, it's not like you've got to keep up with that like you would if you're out in the community. But this is a wonderful way to remember our residents and to thank, our staff who help our residents, and to thank them for all that they do for us. I could go on and on because I've had so many wonderful experiences. I do want to tell you that I have been so fortunate that having had both my father, my mother, and my mother-in-law moved to skilled care when she was 95. She lived to be 99. So I got to see skilled care twice and got to see the level of care that both my loving mothers received, and I am forever grateful for all that they have received, and I'm very grateful to the staff and to all of you. Anyway, here's my check. I wanted to pass it over to Ladine because I'm very fond of this community and wanted to be one of the first to be able to hand in my check, because I know you all will be getting it. Thank you for all of you.
Chris, thank you. That's so wonderful. Krista Smeeks is such an amazing gift to our community. She's so active, and we're very fortunate to have her. Next, I want to call up Keith Einsman to do a couple campus updates. He's going to talk about a few projects we got going on over the next couple of months.
Good morning. Hope everybody's okay. So Monday starts our new fiscal year, which means some new capital projects coming upon us. Which sometimes when you see me talk about the projects, you're like, oh, what's he messing up now? So this one's not going to make me very popular, but the community center elevator on October 15th will be shut down for possibly 3 weeks. Okay, so if you need to get from the community center lobby to upstairs, you're going to have to use the stairs or go around to Timpson and then walk over, okay? If you need to go to the bistro and you can't walk the stairs, we're going to either have to drive or walk around the back, around the Circle Woods, or take the shuttle, which we're going to be running. In the back is kind of a map that we're going to hand out, or if you could pick up, that shows, hey, this is kind of the route to walk in the back. Okay? Why are we doing this? Our elevators are getting some age on it. I've got to upgrade them. We've got to change pumps and motors and all that good stuff. So we were thinking originally we'd start October 8th, but the elevator was being manufactured in Florence, South Carolina, which is close to the coast. So they got flooded a little bit. They're able to run down our elevator down the road. No, I'm just kidding, bad joke. But it is coming, and on the 15th it will be down. I'm hoping 2 weeks. I'm pushing them for 2 weeks, but probably count on 3. Once we're done with that elevator, I've got to take the one down in the kitchen from the loading dock down for the same amount of time. So there's going to be some disruption on campus. Sorry for the inconvenience. If you need any different, anything we can help with, please call me in advance and we'll see what we can do to help you, okay? And then also, 2 weeks from now, well actually this week, you've seen some curb and gutter being replaced on Lambeth Drive. That's the concrete between the asphalt and the yards. There's been some that we've replaced. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be paving on Lambeth Drive from the intersection of Wakefield down to Lower Lincolnshire Loop. So a pretty good section of asphalt we're going to be doing. So in advance, again, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but it's a great thing that the community does invest in areas that need to be kept up. Okay. Thank you.
All right, now to the main focus of our meeting. To kick this off, I'm going to ask Dick Johannes to come up and give us some sort of a background story, history of how this got started and all that we've done.
Good morning. A few years ago, I had the privilege of serving as president of the Residents' Council. At that time, one of the things that I kept reminding the residents of was the fact that management listens to what the residents want. Today, we're going to talk about that because this is a resident-driven initiative. It started with several conversations between Matt and Keith and Judy Havard and expanded over the summer of 2016, over 2 years ago. At that time, there were problems with the coverage in Skill, people who were in Skill visiting their loved ones and realizing that the end was coming and they needed to make preparations. Encountered problems with communicating with a funeral home, etc. And I see some heads nodding, remembering those times. Additionally, in the buildings themselves, there are interference problems. My router, his router, her router fight for the signal, interfere with each other, and there are times when I can't even get on the net. So this led to the Communications Committee meeting and proposing a resolution to establish a subcommittee with the Buildings Committee. So as you can see by the timeline, that all happened back in October, and then they presented to Residents' Council. The Residents' Council concurred in the proposal, and so we established a committee. I'd like the members of the committee to stand as I call your name. Judy Havard. Jim Havard can't stand, but he can wave a hand back in the corner. Dave Stagner. Jim Burnett. Ron Macklin's at Habitat, so he can't be here. Dave Tarr, are you here? I guess he's not here. And Bob Carr couldn't be here either. So those are the residents. We also had the Residents' Council president involved from the get-go. And John Gregg, where are you? Back in the back. We appreciate you keeping the Residents' Council tuned in and giving us the input that we got from the Residents' Council. So this is, as I keep saying, the residents have been involved in this from the get-go and then some. Charles Webb, where are you? Charles Webb is Deerfield's IT consultant. Keith, of course, everybody knows, and Matt. So we've been represented very well at all levels. Okay, so what's campus-wide Wi-Fi? Well, that was the first challenge we had, was to define it. And we defined it as Wi-Fi coverage all over the campus. Go anywhere on campus and maintain Wi-Fi coverage, except the woods. That's just too much. All right. So what were our goals? Well, first and foremost, from the get-go, we said it's got to be secure. Furthermore, we want it to be faster and more reliable. And we want TV and internet to be cheaper. We realized we needed fiber optics so that we would have a good, strong backbone for this whole system. And we wanted to be capable of handling streaming. A lot of people use streaming to watch movies or past TV programs, etc. Furthermore, there's a thing coming down the pike called the Internet of Things. I don't know how many of you know much about it. Here's an article from the Wall Street Journal, and there are copies of it back in the back you can pick up on the way out. Amazon is selling a chip for a very few dollars to every imaginable thing. There is a microwave you can buy on the internet now that you talk to Alexa and say, "Alexa, pop the popcorn." The microwave will also keep track of how many times you pop popcorn and reorder popcorn for you. It's coming, okay? You're gonna need Wi-Fi to take advantage of all the opportunities. Suzanne Vermillier walks in and turns on the lights in her apartment just by saying, "Turn on the lights in the bedroom," whatever. So that's another reality that we had. There's another reason for wanting all of this, and that is we're in competition with other CCRCs, and other ones have it. We need it to be competitive, just like we need to continue to upgrade our facilities. And we want it to be expandable should we ever expand Deerfield. Along the way, we decided we also need to throw in TV and see if we can't put some kind of package together so that we could make this even more attractive for the residents. We believe that we've achieved all of these goals. And we'll get into all of that as we continue to talk. All right, so how did we get there? Well, first thing is we didn't know what was out there. So we interviewed a whole lot of companies. We did a lot of research online. We talked to people in other CCRCs about what they had, what their experience was. And then we met with those same companies again to get more details as we got smarter. I don't know about you all, but when we went to research CCRCs years ago, Sue and I realized after we visited a couple that it was real easy to get confused about which one did what, and oh, by the way, did that one that we just talked to have what this one is saying they have, and so forth. So we encountered the same experience when we were going through this experience with all the various companies. So we refined what we wanted, and then came the most interesting part to me. there's a thing called a request for proposal, or RFP. And this is basically where you say, this is what we want, and you send that out to all the various companies and ask them to come back and bid on it. The residents wrote the RFP, first version, passed it to management, they tweaked it a little bit, then we sent it to the lawyers, and of course they rewrote it in legalese. God love them. Anyway, so November of 2017, we issued the RFP. And then we had a meeting in December with all of the companies to talk to them about what we really meant, because some of them were saying, well now, when you say campus-wide, do you really mean campus-wide? What is that exactly? And so we made it pretty clear what we were trying to say and answered other questions they had. And that led us to getting the bids. As you can see, the bids came in the spring, and of course, like everything else, that just raises more questions. So after several more questions were answered, we selected one company to sit down and negotiate with, and that brings us to the situation we're in right now, which is we sent a letter out and we made a grievous mistake, and I apologize because it's caused a lot of confusion. The $39 you currently pay to Deerfield will no longer be paid once this new system is in place. And a lot of people have gotten confused about that, so I hope that clarified it. Now, Matt's going to get into some specific details that will talk about the money, and that's over my windshield.
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, that was a very accurate summary of our 2 years together. Before I turn it over to these gentlemen over here, these gentlemen are representatives from Spectrum. Before I turn it over to these guys, I want to try to answer some really basic questions, just to try to clear a few things up before we get into the technical stuff. Most important question I know you're all thinking is, will this save you money? The answer is yes. All right, some of you it will save a lot of money, some a little bit of money. It all depends on what your current package is, what you have. Some people don't have TV, some people have TV only. So what we tried to do, and I had some help. With from Mr. and Mrs. Havard. They actually looked at a lot of bills, a lot of statements of residents here at Deerfield, and some AT&T, some Spectrum. We talked to a lot of folks, a lot of word of mouth, and we compared. They put together a spreadsheet and compared what are people paying for, what other services are people paying for. So what we tried to do was we tried to select a typical bill. Okay, so this is a typical resident bill. And I'm going to kind of break it down and show you what a typical Deerfield resident is paying for. So, as we mentioned, you're probably paying $39 to Deerfield. That will go away. That will be part of our package once we make this transition. A lot of residents are paying for HD receivers. Some have 1, 2, or 3 HD receivers in your unit, and each one of these costs $6.99. So this particular bill that we're looking at, this resident had 2 HD receivers. Cost them about $14 a month. Additional channel tiers. A lot of you have chosen like a sports tier or a digital tier 2 just to get more channels, and each of those tiers costs you $12. So this particular resident had one of those tiers, so that's $12 a month. This resident was paying for, I believe they had 100 megabytes per second internet speed, and it was costing them $55 a month. So that's pretty standard. When we looked at all these utility statements, we were noticing that residents were paying somewhere between $50 to $60 a month for internet, and the speeds were usually between 60 and 100 megabyte. This particular bill had about just under $4 in taxes and fees. Of course, that ranged a lot, but they were paying $124 for these services a month. What I want to do is compare this with what we're trying to offer, okay? So this is the bundle package that we're trying to offer. Campus-wide Wi-Fi and the expanded TV lineup that we attached to the letter that we sent out. So that's $85. So the $39 goes away, $85 to Deerfield, okay? Those two HD set-top boxes that were before were costing you $14, they're included, okay? So that $14 goes away. Those additional channel tiers that you may have chosen to pay for, they're all included now. You've actually got digital tiers 1, 2, bronze, and platinum. We counted them up, it's somewhere around 400 channels, depends on if you count Spanish channels or not, but it's somewhere around 400 channels that you're getting, plus music channels, so it's a huge channel lineup. I've actually got a copy of the full channel lineup in the back of the room if you want to grab one. It was also attached to your letter. So that's a huge bonus. Internet service is included in this. It's 300 megabytes per second speeds. Speeds are much faster than what you have right now. And as Mr. Johannes just mentioned, you can access this internet access anywhere on campus. So you can be in your apartment, logged into your internet, your safe, private, secure internet, and you can take your device down to the fitness center and work out and watch TV, watch a movie using that same internet, that same 300 megabytes per second speed. And you're not sharing a hotspot. You're not sharing a public hotspot with someone else sitting beside you. So it's a huge bonus. Taxes and fees are included. So all that is $85, okay? So just to compare, that's for this particular instance, and I know that everybody's going to be different. For this particular instance, that's a $468 savings per year. That's nice. I want to point out there are some services not included in our bundle, but they're still available. So if you want a landline, a lot of you have landlines, some of you don't. If you want a landline, you can still get it. I believe most of you are probably paying $19.99 to Spectrum for a landline that is still available. That doesn't change. I know there's some residents that have gone to what's called voice over internet. It's a type of phone service that operates through your internet, and it costs about $5 a month. I think there are companies called Uma and maybe Voya that offer this. If you were interested in that, come talk to me. I know the Havertz have that, and they're very happy with it. So there are alternatives. If you want a landline and you want to lower your bill, you can do that. I personally don't have a landline. That's just me. I think society's kind of moving in that direction, but still available. DVR service is still available. I think it costs $12 a month now, and I'm pretty sure it's going to stay consistently. It's $12 a month if you want to get that through Spectrum. It's available. And then the movie package. So the premium, HBO, Showtime, some of you have it, some of you don't. If you want to keep that, you can. I'm pretty sure it's the same cost that it is now. So those three options are still available if you want them. Next question I want to answer. What happens to my router? Does that look familiar? What happens to that cluttered mess of cords in the corner that I have to go over and reset every couple months? The answer is it can go away. It can go away. If you want to go with our Wi-Fi package, your modem, your router all go away. Spectrum is going to install these all over our campus in discrete places. So they'll be in your hallway, they may be in your attic. If you're in a cottage, they might be in your garage. And they're going to be managed. We'll manage them. You're not going to have to go over there and reset it once a month because it's not working. So that mess can go away. This kind of leads to another question is, well, what if I have a desktop computer that has to plug into a cord, okay? Well, there are devices. These are called dongles. Funny name, I know. Dongles are little small devices that plug into your USB ports that pick up Wi-Fi. And so they sell them everywhere. They sell them at Walmart across the street. Last time I checked, they range from $10 to $40, depending on how what type of dongle you want. But so basically, your desktop computer that's hardwired into the wall can become a Wi-Fi computer very, very easily. Next question, will assistance be available to help me? Okay, so this is going to be a big transition, we know that. And the answer is yes. We're working with Spectrum on a two-part plan. First part, we want really clear instructions, okay? How do I get all my devices onboarded onto this new Wi-Fi network. How do we do that so that those of you that feel comfortable can do it on your own? We understand there's a lot that don't want to do it on their own. So what we're going to work with these guys on training a group of, it'll probably be a mix of staff and some resident volunteers that will be kind of a support group that can go and help those that need to be walked through it, sort of figure out how to turn in your existing Wi-Fi router and then get all of your devices onto the new network. So that's something that we will help you with, first with clear instructions and then second with volunteers to help. The last question, I'm going to let Keith answer this one. We talked a lot about how residents can benefit from this, but Deerfield can benefit from this. I mean, our operations can really be helped. I'm going to let Keith go over it.
As Mr. Johannes said, it's a great marketing tool for Deerfield. But also other benefits. This is going to be way faster on speeds. And some of the staff area are going to be using it also. It's going to be extremely secure. The Kava locks your fobs. I cannot network that system now throughout the cottages. I can in the big buildings. This fiber network will allow me to have all these badges and fobs networked so I can make changes at once. Currently, I've got to have staff sit down and make changes, sometimes lock to lock to lock. So that will go away, and that'll save us a tremendous amount of effort and labor. The ability to add security cameras if we want, wireless security cameras that'll be tagged to the Wi-Fi. And then after the contract is up, after 5 years, Deerfield would own the infrastructure of fiber. We may decide to continue with you guys, or we may go elsewhere, whatever's best for Deerfield and Charter. This is a really good thing that this backbone will be in place. I'm going to turn it over to Todd Thorpe with Charter. One thing that I do want to stress is that we've worked really hard for Charter and Deerfield residents to get the support they need when they have issues. And it tells me a lot when these 5 guys are sitting up here are willing to come and present this to Deerfield. So please make them feel welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Keith. Thank you, guys. How's everybody doing this morning? I want to thank Matt and Keith and the committee for inviting us here today to give us this opportunity to go over what is about to become, I think, an amazing chapter for Deerfield and how you all connect and view and enjoy entertainment and get information. It has been a very detailed process, and I think you can thank them and thank your committee for being so thorough, because what that's allowed us to do is meet the goals that Mr. Johannes spoke about, and being able to tailor exactly this solution that will be cheaper, be faster, and be very secure and very reliable, because that's really what it's all about, right? You want it to work, and you don't want to get frustrated. So I want to introduce the folks that have come with us, and we're here to answer questions, I think, at the end, and be able to make sure you guys fully understand what this is all about. So to Keith's left, we have Dwayne Howes, who's our sales engineer. Andrew White, who is the manager of the sales engineering group for the South region. We have Lynn Dotson, who's our regional vice president of sales. And we have Larry Hester, who's an account executive with our team, who offices here in Asheville. I office down in Greenville. I don't sound like I come from Greenville. I actually come from Northern Illinois, and I relocated here a couple of years ago. But absolutely love it. Before we got started, I was walking around and I noticed how many people had their phone out, and everybody's doing this, right? Everybody's looking. down. How many people have their phone with them right now? See? Right? You can't leave home without it. It's like you're addicted to it, right? But that says a lot. And wherever you go anymore, everybody is on their phone. And they want to be connected. We tell our kids, don't use the data, so make sure you switch over to the Wi-Fi, because that costs money, even though we have unlimited data now, and they thank us for that. But the point is, you want to be connected wherever you go, whether it's within your home, and you just want to sit in the living room, or if you go to the pool, you walk around the community, or you go to the store, right? You want to be connected. And you want to have your entertainment and information at your fingertips at all times. So what we're about to do is do exactly that. So what's going to change, and I know change is a very scary thing, nobody likes change, but it's change for the good. And the TV experience that you have right now today will really be the same in that you're still going to have the channels. The channels will increase, so it will improve. But you're going to be able to watch TV on your device, like Matt said, and go anywhere within the property. Okay? So the importance of being connected is really what it's all about. And we're here to partner with you, and we thank Deerfield for allowing us to partner with all of you to make that happen. The first step in all of this, though, is making sure you guys are comfortable and you understand exactly what this is all about, right? So that's what we're here today, and I'm going to turn it over to Andrew White, who's going to get a little bit deeper in the weeds.
I'm not going to get too deep.
Right.
Hey, Matt, I'm already loud. If you could have that knocked down a touch, I don't want to have to hurt anybody. Thank you, everyone. I am a little bit, everybody good with this? Am I too loud? Okay. So, I wanted to start just briefly talking a little bit about how the technology works and what you're used to, what you're familiar with, and what's going to change, okay? I want to give you a little idea of just what's coming, all right? And this is an asbestos suit, so you're welcome to ask all the questions you want. We'll do the best that we can to answer them. I think that Mr. Johannes did an excellent job of kind of a quick overview of what our solution is and the intentions that we have in providing to you, okay? So before we get into all the nuts and bolts, I'm going to do a quick little overview, okay? I kind of call it my elevator pitch, all right? And then hopefully I can help answer the more specific questions that you might have, okay? So as Mr. Johannes, I didn't want to refer to you as Dick, so. Nonetheless, this is the standard router that everybody is used to having, right? It's got 3 antennas. This one came out in 2013. It's still the one I'm using in my house. It's great, okay? But if you got 2,000 of these in a property, just like you said, you're all fighting, right? And then when you go to Best Buy and you see the model that came out in 2017 or whatever, it's got 3 more antennas on it, right? So it's got to be better. We went from 6 antennas to whatever. Now we've got them with 8 antennas. And you've got the Google Hub that's got 11 antennas. And it's like some kind of competition for the number of antennas, okay? But it's not about that. What it's about is kind of, it's like having an air traffic controller, okay? You've got everybody in this giant area trying to talk to something, okay? And every one of your devices is getting what we call a beacon every millisecond from every one of these devices that's anywhere in the property that can be seen, okay? So it's chaos, it's mass chaos. And that's just on the, hey, I'm here, not I want to use your data, I want to download a movie, right? When we get into the world of that, we're talking about having to, and this is a great example, so try to follow me. Imagine that if you were listening to every radio station all at the same time, right? You got bluegrass, you got country, you got rock, everything. Well, what you would hear if this was all playing out of, one of these speakers right here is just, right? It would just be noise. And then basically what you're telling your computer to do is, hey, I only want to listen to country music. So I don't want to hear the rest of that stuff. So if you kind of get how difficult that would be for that device to say, hey, I want to tune in, I want to listen to country music and only country music, but I need you to do it through, right? It would be nearly impossible, okay? So what we do in our solution is we come in and we use a device like this. Looks very simple, okay? And I believe that I have, if I can figure out how to work this remote now, a couple of images of what it looks like installed, okay? So it's simple. There's not wires ran to it. It's flush mounted at the top of a ceiling. And this going the wrong way here. Oops. So here we have it in the ceiling, and then on the other side, this reverse, right? So this might not be necessarily in your kitchen. It could be in the hallways throughout here. It could be in these drop-down tiles, wherever it is that we would put these. We're putting these in a 1-to-1 ratio. So you're going to have one of these in every one of your units. Now, to give you an idea, in 2013, this was a $300 router, right? This is the $1,100 wireless router. So when you're talking commercial grade, okay? If you'll hold this for just 1 second. When we talk about those antennas, when we talk about these antennas and the numbers of them, it's not necessarily how big they are, right? This is, as nerdy as it is, this is a 5 dBm antenna, right? I know that matters a whole lot to you guys. But the new stuff that we're using is just this. There are no antennas, okay? And I'll be glad to take this, and I'll just start it over here, and I'll pass it around. And what I want you to notice is there's some 3-dimensional structures on here, okay? And 2 of the 3-dimensional structures look kind of like a cross, and those are one type of our wireless connection. And then the other one that looks like a helicopter landing pad is our 5 gig, which is our big, powerful, strong network that gives us the really high speeds, right? So what I'm trying to share with you here is a paradigm of technology change, okay? We're going from having lots of these to not needing them because these are now smart, right? We have algorithms that are running on this device that are going through and they're tuned into those radio stations. And they're saying, no, we got to block out this, we got to block out this. We're only going to be using this, okay? So if we put 2,000 of these very cool things in your apartment everywhere, we no longer have the fight that Mr. Johannes was talking about, okay? And what that does for us, which is the real beauty of it, is it allows us to give you a user experience that we want you to have from, quite frankly, a brand protection standpoint, right? We want you to like our service. But we want you to like our service, right? We don't want you to be upset with it. We want it to better Deerfield. We want it to bring more residents in, and we want you to be better than your next door neighbors, which you will be when this is done, okay? So, as another little handout, and I think there was a slide earlier that showed the little wireless USB dongles. Everybody loved that word, the dongle. So I got a couple more I'm going to pass out. And these are just to give you an idea, if you've got those wired computers, this is how small they are. They range anywhere from $10 to $60, depending on what you want. And that would plug into the back of your computer. And that would be, let me see if I can find it on that slide. There you go. So what I'm passing around now is these devices. And it just plugs into the USB port of any of your existing things. It's got a cover on it. It's got a cute little black cap. So there, you'll see that. Yep, it's that small. It's that small. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that is not actual size, by the way.
Unwieldy. But no, that if you have a wired computer, like your standard old type of wired computer, you're going to want to plug that in the back, and then going through our credential system, which I'll get into in a minute, you guys will be able to connect to the internet. Okay? Go right ahead.
Well, the same dongle work for all of your printer and your wireless mouse and all of those things. After
We must have talked earlier. We must have. So let's talk about printer, okay? So the devices that we just passed around are strictly for your computer, okay? But if you've got a printer that is a wired printer, okay? There's another type of device, okay? For one's sake, in every one of your units, you're gonna have one wire cord, okay? And you can plug in that printer to your wire cord, okay? The unfortunate part is that wire cord for you is gonna be located in your living room. So that might pose a problem for you. But nonetheless, of course, there's a way around that too. This is called a Hooto. H-O-O-T-O. We're all right about that spot. And this is a little $20 device, and it simply connects to the wireless internet, and it uses an app on your phone to control it. And then it provides the cable, the Ethernet cable that you would need to plug into your printer. So I'll pass this around too. Everybody can see it, play with it. These are the different means that we would have to connect your existing equipment. Ma'am?
That thing that you showed on the screen,
Yes, ma'am.
is that wired into the ceiling?
It is.
So it's hardwired with coax?
It's actually hardwired with Cat5.
Okay.
Mhm.
And power?
Yes, ma'am. And if anybody wants an example of Cat5, it'll be the cable that's connected to the thing I'm passing around.
So, if I have my iPhone and I'm looking at email,
Yep.
today I tell my wireless printer, print a,
Mhm.
I take this down to the rec center. I can watch a movie, 350 per second, no interference from anybody. And if I print on an email, that will print back in my apartment?
Absolutely. So I'm going to restate his question so everybody can hear it, okay? He stood up and he said, if I'm sitting here with my iPhone and I want to walk down to I forget what he said, the gym, the pool, the underground hideout locker, whatever you guys have got, okay? You will be able to connect to what we call a PAN, okay? It's a personal area network. And this is an industry-defining feature that we have that nobody else has. And we love it. It's awesome. It's the bee's knees, okay? And basically what it will allow you to do is it will allow, whatever your name was, sorry, I forget already.
Tell me again what PAN is. I'll take it.
I like that. It stands for Personal Area Network, okay?
And then what's your name then?
Hey guys, before we get too far into Q&A, do you have any other more you want to present?
No.
You good with going to Q&A? Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure they were done. Okay.
Now, if the device in the ceiling is like in the hallway, it will serve the entire apartment area.
Yes, ma'am, it will. Absolutely.
I got a question right here.
I am extremely concerned about security.
Okay.
If I presently have a direct wired PC at home, I don't care if somebody accesses my AARP account. I have concern greatly if somebody has access to my financial accounts and transactions. How can I trust this Wi-Fi to be as secure as a direct wired PC?
Excellent question. So, first of all, I don't want to, that really is the echo zone right there, isn't it? I don't really want to address the question as whether it be wired or wireless, okay? Because to me, they matter none, okay? So first of all, let's just address security as a whole, okay? So first of all, the security that's in place on this is 4 different layers of security, okay? Which is more than you would have at, Dell or some type of enterprise type connection, okay? It's top notch. And here's how it works. When we come in and we initialize the system, okay? I'm going to use the word credential here, okay? Help stay with me on the word credential, all right? Your property management people are going to have a set number of credentials. Each person will get one, okay? Just imagine that it's a made-up number. Doesn't matter what it is. It has no affiliation to you as an individual, okay? It might even be just labeled Unit 101, right? Doesn't really matter what it is. And what that credential is going to give you, okay, they're going to hand that to you either via paper or via email, and you're going to take that credential and you're going to log into our portal. And when you log into our portal, it's going to say, you know, what's your credential? You're going to put in that credential, and then it's going to prompt you to create your own username and password that nobody else has, okay? So the property management and or ourselves, we can activate or deactivate a credential, but we can never see your username or your password, okay? Now, that's part of the 4 layers of security. Now, inside of that, we still have your standard WPA2, okay, which is an encryption, a 512-bit encryption that industry standard, everybody's got it. Probably use it now on your regular wireless because it comes up by default. But that's how we do it, and that's how we do it better. So what we've got is a level of anonymity up here. We've got the user creating their own custom username and password so that nobody else can have it. So if you call down to your property and you say, hey, I forgot my password, they're going to be like, hey, can't help you. I don't know it, right? Because you don't want them to know it. You want to be a sole individual inside of this network protected from everybody else. Now, I know where you're going, okay? So we've taken care of the login and the credential, right? Okay? Now, how do we separate traffic inside of our network? That's probably where you're going next, okay? And the way that we do that is we do 2 different things, okay? First service that is running, and this is going to be way high tech, okay? All right? But it's called TLS, Transportation Level Service, okay? And that basically means that we're putting each individual user on a different segment of a network that we define out as what's called a VLAN, or Virtual Local Area Network. I know, I'm sorry. He asked the question and that's the answer to it. But the best way to look at it is if there was a giant highway, okay? First of all, for you to get on the highway, you gotta have a password, and then once you're on the highway, everybody's got their own lane. Does that help a little bit? Okay. All right. That's what I'm up here to do, you know? Right here, ma'am. Oh.
Right here.
Yes, sir. Or ma'am.
I don't understand if the router is going to be, all the routers are outside of our own apartments, or will we have any kind of router in our own individual apartment?
That's another great question. So what you're going to have in each apartment is this thing right here, except with the bottom part, of course. And you will have a portal inside that you log into the web page where you have your account, and it'll show you all of the devices that you have connected, and it will serve as a virtual router, right? In your current world, everybody's got their own router at home, right? And so you log into this router, okay? And this is how you control your network, okay? When we move over to this new system, and you, quote unquote, don't have equipment in your unit, right, except for that thing that's sitting in the ceiling, okay? You're gonna have a virtual one of these in a web page, okay? And this is exactly how you're gonna log on and add devices, or remove devices, or when we talk about the world of IoT, okay? All of those light switches and Apple devices and Roku's and all that, you'll be able to go into that virtual portal that your username and password will use, and you'll be able to configure those devices as if you had a router like this. But it won't be a real router, it'll be virtual. Does that answer your question?
We got it answered. It really was,
She was wanting to know who was going to be actually installing it into their apartments. That was her question.
Oh, I did not get that. Sorry.
That's okay. So she wants you to tell her what the answer is.
The answer is we will be installing them for you. And we have contractors that have promised us that there will be absolutely no conduit used whatsoever, so you'll see no wires. It will be pretty. It will look great.
Next question.
As I understand you, we need one of those dongles for each computer that we have in our apartments. Is that correct?
That is correct. Well,
If it's a desktop.
hold on one second. Hold on.
If you have 2 desktops.
So a lot of desktop computers may already have a wireless in them, okay? But in the event that they don't, yes, you will need that dongle.
Okay. What if you run out of ports?
I would suggest,
Get a new one.
or you can buy a hub for USB things, another $10.
And just another point, if you have a laptop or a tablet, they already have a Wi-Fi receiver in them. You don't need a converter. It's just for those older desktop computers that are hardwired.
Correct. You first.
I got a question over here.
You don't. If you're still connecting your printer directly to your computer via the USB, then none of this affects you.
I got a question over here. Reverend Reitmeyer asked me about timeline of this project, right? Okay. As we stated in the letter, or it might have been in the Q&A sheet, that it's really difficult to give you a set date. There's a couple things that need to happen. One is we've got to get our contract squared away with Spectrum, which may take a little bit of time. The attorneys have to talk and they have to kind of work things out. It may take a little time. Then we've got to install it. I've been told the install of a fiber network to all buildings and all cottages, what is it, 5-6 months is kind of what I'm hearing?
Would install the fiber post 4 to 5 months. Well within 6, worst case is probably 6 months, but
We'll probably, 120, 150 days is typically the timeline. This is a big project as far as size and scope, a lot of outdoor areas, so, I would say between, 4 to 6 months, depending on weather and what have you.
So that puts us, if you add those two things together, that puts us about mid-2019 is really what is kind of realistic. I don't want to give you a date that's not realistic, so we're looking at mid-2019.
Come over here.
Question over there? You good?
There's an awful lot of junk in our apartments and cottages that belongs to Charter.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to pick it up?
My understanding is the TV set-top boxes will be switched out by Charter technicians, but the routers, if you have a Spectrum router, then we'll need to turn that back in. Either you as an individual or Deerfield will need to help you turn that back in. So I think that's my understanding of it. Yes.
That is correct.
So,
Man, I've got one over here.
yep.
It's my understanding that these various devices on the Internet of Things, lights and thermostats and your watch and what have you, are vulnerable to hacking. Now, I don't have any of those things, but what about somebody getting into our system through those IoTs?
That's the first question that I've gotten from a group like that on IoT. And it's a very simple answer. So the way that we have it set up is everything inside of your personal area network, okay, is a Mac-to-Mac association. And so they would only be able to get in through the vulnerability on the Bluetooth side if there was Bluetooth or if there was a 900 megahertz compatible type of unit in there. They wouldn't be able to access through the Wi-Fi. Keep going.
And my microphone are all Bluetooth.
Yes.
For my telephone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's vulnerable.
Bluetooth has its own vulnerabilities that are native to Bluetooth that you can't overcome. But I gotta be honest with you, Bluetooth does have a limited range, either 33 feet or 66 feet. But to be dead honest with you, they're after your phone. They're not gonna look for any other active devices. And quite frankly, it's not quite as pronounced in the world as people might think that it is. If you're a celebrity, then I would watch out for it. But yeah, totally understand.
Next question.
Okay, let's suppose I'm really happy with what I already have.
Okay.
I like it the way it is.
Okay.
Am I going to be forced to change over and use this new technology, or can I keep things the way they are?
If you keep things the way they are, you will be a troublemaker.
So I hear 6 months, a year later, I'm hearing everybody around me saying it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You ought to gotta get this one, come on, get up to date. Can I then join the team at that point?
So, to be honest, yep, and that one. So as soon as
Bad spot right here.
as soon as they cut over live, you'll be paying for it regardless of whether you're using it or not.
That's not, let me get that.
Well, sorry, y'all are gonna go through the ramp up.
All right, so to answer the first question, are you going to be forced to switch over? No, you're not. If you don't want to try this, you don't have to. We've got folks that like it the way it is, and you can keep it. There are going to be some challenges if you decide to keep it, and I'm not sure I quite understand all of it, but my understanding is that your router that you choose to keep might interfere with this larger signal that we're installing. And so it might cause you problems. You might have a hard time with your signal in your apartment. It also might cause some problems with your neighbors. And I don't know how serious it is. It could be a minimal thing. It could be a major thing. I don't know. But you can choose to keep it. If you hear great things and people are enjoying it and you want to switch over and pay for the bundle or pay for the internet service 6 months down the road, you're welcome to do so. But you are not paying for it unless you tell us you want to do the service. So it's you don't have to pay for it. We're not including it as a utility thing. Yeah.
We've got a question over here, Matt.
One
Question.
second though, I want to go back to that. So just so you know, when he said that our network will be very powerful, we will be consuming all 24 of the available channels in the air. So your device would be more than likely underpowered comparatively.
I have a related question.
This gentleman, you two have both been waiting forever. I got to pick between one of you. Go for it, sir. Then go first.
Yeah, well, we probably need a microphone.
How do guests access Wi-Fi?
So we're going to have a separate guest network that will be set up, that will be open for anyone to join. It will be at a lower speed tier than what your private is, and they will have no access to anything except going straight out to the web.
Can we let them use our password and use it in our apartment?
That's to
When
your discretion, yes.
We can't kick them for doing password.
No, ma'am, you cannot.
Right. So like if your family visits and you want to give them your credentials to log on to your account, you can, and they'll have that fast internet. But if somebody like a vendor is visiting Deerfield and they're in the lobby and they want to check their email, they can sign on to a slower guest network.
This gentleman right here.
If Judy might be able to answer this question, since she's using UMA. We have Magic Jack.
Okay.
Are we going to need one of those dongles to plug into the back of Magic Jack?
I don't believe that your Magic Jack will support it that way. I believe that you would actually, if you were using Magic Jack, you would have to use that device I passed around that had the cable that was coming out of it, the Hutu, on the Magic Jack side.
Are you going to do that, Judy?
Someone comes out with a dongle, it's open dongle.
Okay.
Uma comes out with their own dongle, and we are to use that.
Okay, there's also a percentage too.
I got a question back here.
If we already have a DVR box from Spectrum, do we have to get rid of it and change to a different one?
No, so, but you would pay extra for that box. So the DVR, which, that was on the slide earlier, that the available services that you could still subscribe to, phone, if you want to upgrade to DVR service, if you want to have HBO, Showtime, you want to have premium channels, you have that availability today, that would be exactly the same. And the price would remain what you're paying today. That's not going to change. What's going to change is the package that Deerfield subscribes to that makes available to you, which is going up. And not in price, I don't mean necessarily, but availability, channels. You're going to get more services.
Question back? Okay.
October 1, we're about to switch our little pads on the refrigerators to save energy. Does this system give us opportunity to save energy? We pay quite a bit total for power? Or another question would be, does it give us opportunity in any way to, say you walk out of the room and forgot to turn off something, and you have Wi-Fi chips in that device, does it give us any opportunity for that? That's what I thought, Judy, but I want to hear it.
You want to?
Well, we do it now. I turn the lights on from the airport, so that they're there.
I turn the lights on from the airport and I turn up the heat. So there's Suzanne Vermillion, so by the time I get home, lights are on, the heat's up, and we're all happy. Open the door and we're ready.
I think the question, if I have the question correctly though, is your energy consumption bill going to go up? Okay. I'm going to have to defer to the smart guy here to say, is this going to draw more?
You as an individual will pay less for electricity. The small unit that we're putting in runs very small voltage, and that voltage is actually coming from outside of your unit. So as we're now, you're powering your own router or your own things of that nature, that will be your reduction.
And that's fairly large, because I looked at those little lights that are on when you have additional devices, and it amounts to quite a bit, so that's good. Thank
The
you.
property, in a sense, will be paying for that out.
All right, question?
In terms of implementation, are you planning on a phased implementation or an immediate cutover? And if it's phased, what would prevent the kind of competition between the old and the new as it's being phased in?
So generally when we do these installations, we do them in some type of phasing, as in a sense, we start with building 1, and until we're done with building 1, we don't go to building 2, and so on and so forth. We're going to be turning on the units, like as we go from unit 1 to unit 2. Unit 1's going to come up, and unit 2 is going to come up, unit 3 is going to come up. What we do in the first couple of days while we're turning on these units is it's just wide open, okay? As in like no security in a sense. And the reason we do that is during that phase, that allows people that are dropping their other service and to come back on. And then you'll have a date that'll be established by the property that'll come out, and then on that date, it's like we flip the switch. And then all of a sudden, you got to move over to that credential.
So yeah, there's like a go live date where they'll be installing parts of this, and then when it's all complete and the signal's ready to go, then we go live. And then you can choose at that point to log on to your, what is it, the portal to get all of your devices switched over.
Matt, I've got a question over here, if you can just hold on.
This is a follow-on question to the one about the DVR. Currently, our DVRs are wired into the wall with coax cable. Will the replacement boxes also be wired, or will they be Wi-Fi?
No, they will all be wired.
Or wired the way they are
To
now?
the coax, yes ma'am.
Thank you.
Just so, if I could just follow up on that though, your DVR box is not getting replaced. That box you'll keep, okay? We're gonna replace the DTA right? The DTA is with a set-top box, a high-def set-top box.
Right.
If two of those.
If you don't currently have an HD box,
Correct.
they'll replace them. You may already have them, you may have DVR, they stay.
Right, yeah, if you already have them, because you've upgraded your service, we're not gonna just take it out and put the same thing back in, because you already have it.
But what you will see is additional channels available once we go live with this.
Correct, correct. Or, if you're already subscribing to that package, the cost will basically go away, in a sense, like how Matt broke it out.
All right. Next question.
Following up on the question about Bunk liking everything just the way it is and then becoming a nuisance to everybody else. We have, outside the boundary fence, of Deerfield, we have a lot of nearby neighbors in apartments and in high-end development nearby. And what's going to be the impacts across the fence line?
So to make sure I understand this, you're concerned about the people that are across the fence line and how much we're affecting them?
Well, or they're affecting us.
Okay. So we will be affecting them and they will not be affecting us from a power side.
But it's really about distance, right?
What do you mean you don't believe that?
Well, I'm kind of like Bob. I don't want to interfere with them or them with us, but if I'm on 2.4 gigahertz service in my apartment, and that's going to interfere with this, then why a neighbor across the fence in the ramble, we call it, why would I not interfere with them with me? I don't see what's going to avoid the on the air RF congestion.
So let me take that. So I think the can you hear me? I think the important part here is to understand the Wi-Fi, right? We don't need, nor do we put managed Wi-Fi normally in single-family homes. So like if there's a neighborhood across the fence, single-family homes, they probably have our normal service like all of you have today, right? And because the Wi-Fi is not as close, your router is not as close as your neighbor's router, there's very little interference, right? So at my house, I can maybe see 5 or 6 networks, where if I live in an apartment community or in a closely dense area, I may be able to see 20 or 30 networks, right? And that's really the difference. So, you know, as you're more spread out, it really doesn't make any difference. You really don't need a managed system like we're putting in here. Whereas in a more dense environment, that's when we need this product, this managed product, to manage all the air traffic control that Andrew mentioned earlier. So it's really not, you know, once you get out away from the density of this community, it's really not a big deal. So, you know, the neighborhood, they won't have a problem, nor will they really interfere with us because we're managing the traffic here. It's really if you know, we fire up building 1 and half the building keeps their old router that they have today, then that traffic's close enough to cause issues, right? So I think that's really probably the answer.
A similar example is at my house. I'm using the exact same R610 Ruckus that we'll be installing here, okay? And when I saw my neighbors, and I'm on about a half-acre lot, and I would say I could probably see 2 or 3 or 4 different Wi-Fis from even the houses across the street, and I put these in, and I can't see any of my neighbors anymore. And the reason is because, in a sense, I'm locally overpowering them with my beacon. So,
But it does also manage channels.
it does. It's automatically managing channels. That's correct. That's correct. As a matter of fact, these have the ability to move into other types of channels that commercial or non-Best Buy units can't do.
They're smart devices and they detect other channels and switch to a channel that you're not going to interfere with.
They do. That's exactly correct.
I have a question back here.
She's gonna be one of the people in the train.
And that's Judy, right? Judy.
Next question.
Right over here.
Ms. Potts?
Good morning. I have a question about walking around outside. I read that it wasn't going to go to the woods, obviously, but it's on our campus wide outside. Will it reach?
We are designing this network that if you are around the outside of the building, you should have no problems staying connected. If you were to go off into the woods, then that would be the...
So if I walked from here to the chapel, and as I was walking, would I be able to have Wi-Fi to that distance?
You should. And a very simple way to look at it, and one of the analogies we use is imagine that we're building a giant bubble over the entire property, and then each little credential that we hand to you is your little bubble. And as long as your bubble is inside the giant bubble, you can roam and do anything you want to do anywhere, right? Even in the elevators.
All right, next question.
She still has another question, please.
That was a win. Elevator.
Now, I want to caveat that with one thing, okay? So there's a basic understanding of Wi-Fi here that I want to make sure everybody in this room understands, right? When we have a unit like this that's plugged into a 110 volt outlet, we, in a sense, have a lot of power, okay? When you're on your cell phone, okay, that's a 3.7 volt battery, right? So the limitation of our network is really on your end device, quite frankly. It's not on our network, okay? Even the limitation of speed that you might have is going to be potentially on your device and not on us. And the reason I say that is because not all devices are created equal, right? We have, you know, an iPhone 4S can only do 150 megs or something, and the brand new iPhone that comes out does 866, or you get my gist, right? So depending on what type of device you have is also going to limit your, in a sense, your connectivity speed. So.
Well, let me say the question again. iPhone X will work when I walk into the elevator.
I would suppose that it would, yes. Yeah. I'm not going to put a WAP in the elevator. I can't do that for all kinds of reasons.
There's a
But
caveat
I'm pretty sure that
there.
you'll be okay.
If he's trying to use the telephone signal, he'll get cut off. If he's using the Wi-Fi signal, he'll be okay. It is now today okay.
And one of the things that's great too is even at my house, I just moved over. I think a lot of y'all's phones and service carriers are now allowing you to do Wi-Fi calling, right? Yeah. Okay. So Wi-Fi calling works great when you have good Wi-Fi. Okay. But if you don't have good Wi-Fi calling is crap. Okay. So we're going to have great Wi-Fi here. So depending on how you're managing your device, you'll be okay.
So you're going to have like nanocells or access points?
We are not doing microcell technology, okay? That's not what this is yet. It's on our roadmap when the entire world crosses to 5G, but this is Wi-Fi for right now.
So guys, I just want to.
That's all I wanted to hear. You said it worked.
Good.
Judy said it'll work. That's all that matters. I just want to kind of say we need to kind of wind down with questions. We can take a few more, but all of these guys are going to be here and stay after to talk to you individually if you have questions. Hope they are.
I've got one thing before we stop though. I'm going to give these to whoever might want them. So we got 2 lucky winners of those devices. I'm going to go for you because you called me first. You already told me.
Hold on a second.
One last question that hadn't been asked. These are devices. Devices fail. What happens then?
It's a great, excellent question. When we design these networks, we obviously have a 0 to 100% power rating on these things. We design them at 50%. Okay, so wherever they're placed, they're designed and currently operating at 50% power. If one of the units was to fail, first of all, we would see it immediately inside of our monitoring system. Okay, and then the surrounding WAPs with wireless access points would power up to cover the one that was down automatically until we were doing it. So this is a completely self-healing network from that standpoint. I can't help you.
Man, I've got a question back there if you don't mind, hold on.
Talk about the management of the system, would you please?
Excellent, okay. So basically what it does is it allows,
The management of the system. Right now, today, you are the manager of your system to whatever degree that is or not. With this new system, it will be completely managed and monitored, and he'll elaborate more.
Correct, Judy. Basically what we do is we carve out everybody the same. Nobody can take more bandwidth than another user, okay? So even though you're over here and you're doing who knows what on the internet and taking lots of bandwidth, you're limited at 300, there's nothing you can do about it. So she's guaranteed her 300, he's guaranteed his 300, and we're under contract to make sure that y'all have more than enough bandwidth for the entire property. That's the way it works.
I think we got one last question in the back.
Yeah, the IT changes a lot as time progresses. Speeds increase, protocols change. How flexible is your system to grow with the changes that you see coming?
So we're very comfortable right now. The technology that we're putting in is we're doing 2 wireless bands, one on the 2.4 gig and one on the 5.8 gig. And the one on the 5.8 gig is capable of wireless AC, which we believe has a shelf life, so to speak, of at least 5 to 7 years. The next one that is just starting to come out, that is not even out yet, is AX. And I guarantee you no one in this room has a device or even manufactures a device that's on that protocol yet. So from that standpoint, for the next 5 to 7 years, I think wireless AC will be the predominant Wi-Fi connection, and it will sustain all of the legacy gear that you might have as well. So from a speed standpoint, we can go up to 1.2 gigs on the 802.11 AC platform. We're not there yet, but we can. It's just an acronym for a denomination of the technology.
And I just want to say too, to that point, in scalability and things changing, Deerfield isn't buying they're not buying the system, right? So it's not like they're going to purchase all these WAPs and we're going to come out and put them in. That's part of the service that we're providing. That's in that cost, right? So it's important to point that out, that if needs change, it's adaptable. It's not like they bought all this equipment and now it's obsolete.
I have a very basic question. When I have a problem, I call the customer service.
Correct. So it's not the same customer service, and there's 2 numbers. You're going to need one that's for video and one that's for your Wi-Fi. Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest, exactly the way it happens today. Okay. Let's say that you've got all of your IoT devices in your apartment and you need help setting them up. Okay. You're going to call in. You're going to get a ticket number. You're going to, they might say, quite frankly, we're very busy right now. We will call you back. And I know that sounds terrible, right? That sounds terrible for me to even say. But what's going to happen is when that person calls you back, they're going to be a tier 2 technician. And we have recorded phone calls that are almost 3 hours long, okay, of people staying on the phone with the technician to help them get every active device in their entire apartment working before they hang up that call. And that's the reality of it. So with the good comes the bad.
All right, we're going to do one last question, and then we're going to kind of...
How long will it take a service person to come and service if our outages?
So that's a pretty vague question. Can we?
Can I? I'll play that.
Yeah.
Go for it. So,
So as Andrew spoke earlier, we kind of have a self-healing network, right? So if your AP went down, your access point in your particular unit, the units next to it would power up to keep you running on the Wi-Fi. So that's one thing. And then we would dispatch someone to come out, and after we notified you, they'd come out and swap that out. So self-healing on that part. If you have an individual unit issue, it's usually within 48 hours we have someone out. If the entire property's down, that's a different situation, and that's we dispatch within 4 hours. So does that answer your question? Who answered?
48 hours.
48 for an individual problem, typically, yes.
But they would not be down during that 48 hours
Right.
because they're covered.
Yeah,
Right.
if your router and ceiling stops working, the other ones around you are going to pick up and cover for that one. Okay, thank you guys so much for coming. We are going to